Hello, and welcome to this edition of Tuesday Table Talk. I'm your host, Dina Spinks, co founder and CEO of Notary Know How. Today we have with us Bonnie Harrison. Bonnie is a notary public and a wedding officiant. I invited Bonnie to interview with us so she can tell us about being a notary public that is also a wedding officiant. Bonnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
We at Notary Know How have an upcoming Zoom class on Thursday, February the 29th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom, teaching about notarizing marriage certificates and what you need to know to handle that very important document. Sometimes notary work can have slow seasons, and that leaves some notaries looking for additional sources of income. Wedding officiating and wedding related services are a great source of additional income for a notary who would like to offer these services. Since the marriage certificate must be notarized on the day of the wedding, if the couple wants that to be their legal marriage date, and most do, the notary will typically already be at the wedding. So why not offer additional services if that's something that you can offer? So welcome to the show, Bonnie. Can you please tell us about yourself and your notary public and wedding officiant background?
Sure. I'm a longtime resident of Alabama, born and raised in Alabama, and I've been living in Huntsville since 1968. I graduated from UAH with a Bachelor of Art in Art Education and went on to receive my master's in English with a certification in reading specialist and became a teacher and retired from teaching in 2012. At that time, I began working with my husband at his law office, and that's how I came into being a notary. And the notary, I notarized many legal documents there at the office. And then in 2015, is when I added being a wedding officiant to being a notary.
Well, I love our notary community, and I am so glad to meet and to get to know another great notary public from the state of Alabama. We at Notary Know How are all about telling you extra ways that notary publics can earn extra income, and this is just one more service you can add to your business portfolio. Do you have a knack for event planning? Are you a photographer? These are just some extra services that you can offer. Bonnie, for those who do not know, can you explain what a wedding officiant is?
Well, simply put, a wedding officiant is anyone who goes and conducts a wedding ceremony. It can be your friend, it can be a minister. It's whoever is there in front of the couple going through whatever vows they've selected, and that is the wedding officiant.
Bonnie, what services do you offer as a wedding officiant? You personally.
Well, yeah, as a wedding officiant, it is you have couples that want to have large weddings, you have couples that just want to be married in the park. So what you need to offer them, they call you as a wedding officiant. When they contact you as a wedding officiant, they need help. Some of them have already downloaded their marriage certificate. They don't have any questions. They've downloaded online. They know what they're doing. Some don't know where to begin. They contact you and like, where do we start? Where do we start to get a marriage certificate in Alabama? So you're responsible for helping them, first of all, get prepared to start their wedding, what they're going to do, whether it's going to be small, a big. So there's that. And then also you wind up being maybe a photographer. They may, if it's a simple park wedding, they want you to take photographs. I'm not a photographer, but they want you to take a photograph. And then some of them will even call and they want you to do a rehearsal. So that means as a wedding officiant, they may not have a wedding planner. So you wind up being actually a officiant and sort of planning and counsel and a lot more than just wedding officiant.
It seems like it can turn into a lot of work. but those are additional packages that you can offer. You know, you can offer wedding event planning and photography if that's something you
Yes.
know, are skilled at and want to offer. You know, and even counseling if that's something that you have a background in that. And we all know that sometimes when people are getting married, they do need a little bit of counseling. So, how did you get started as a wedding officiant? Were there specific steps you needed to take to do that?
When I first began as a wedding officiant in 2015, they had an event called Wedding Week here in Huntsville, and they needed extra officiants. And a friend contacted me and said, "Hey, what do you think about becoming a wedding officiant?" Well, at that time, you needed to be a minister or ordained somehow. So the first thing I had to do is go get, that. And then that is how I actually got into officiating weddings.
Did that change with the new marriage certificate law that you no longer have to be a minister, that anyone can become a wedding officiant?
I think that anyone could have been, I'm going back to 2015, in 2019, anyone could be officiate back then if they just, had the credentials. But then in 2019, when it changed to where you needed to be a notary and have a notary to make it illegal. I mean, you've got a wedding officiant and you've got a notary. So one, it handles the aspect of conducting a ceremony, and the other makes it illegal. So back then, from 2015 to 2019, when I started, you just did the ceremony and all the legal work was done, taken over and done at the courthouse. They got the license and they went back and they filed it. Now the notary does both. They can act as the officiant and as the notary.
Okay. Um, I'm going off script just a wee bit to ask, for someone who may be interested in this, you know, is there any training that you would recommend to them to help them become familiar with how to be an officiant and how to conduct a ceremony? Do you have any suggestions for that?
Well, well, for me, it was just you sort of morph to the people who contact you. You've got to find out uh, over the years, it's taken me many years, but over the years, it depends on what the people who contact you want. They, there's a, you can go online or you can I do religious or I do secular ceremonies, but you have to learn each one. But then each individual couple will have additions. They may want to do personal vows, they may want to do jumping the broom or or rose ceremonies or hand fasting and all of that. I mean, I was not experienced in all that, and you have to go and you have to learn, you have to talk to people, and so there's a lot to it as far as learning how to officiate a wedding in the way that someone would like it to be officiated.
What are some things that you wish you knew in the beginning when you first started as a wedding officiant?
I think I wish that I had known better. I wish I'd had more training in like working with the people one on one, because I have been used to being a notary. I was a notary first, then a wedding officiant. Well, a notary is, I was at the office with my husband, and there's the document, and there's the identification, there's the signature, and it's just like that. But then I discovered once in 2019 when you were required to look at that wedding document, it's not just a matter of looking at that document, because the probate court will reject those documents for just any reason. And what you have is you have people who are not used to working on legal documents. The notary publics are used to working on legal documents, but you have people filling out a document and adding information, and they're not used to it. And you have to check for typo errors. You have to check things that would cause that marriage certificate to be rejected by the probate court. So you're not only looking at signatures and identification, you've got to make sure that the ID matches the date that they've put in up there as their birthday and all the information. And sometimes just simple things like I recently on Valentine's Day, I did a ceremony and I didn't catch it. They had put down his name and male, and they put down her name and male. But fortunately, they were actually looking at it after the ceremony and they caught it. And it's like, no, that'll be rejected. We need to put down what's on your IDs.
Right.
So they brought it back and I redid it. So sometimes you've got to do a redo, but then again, that's going to cause a difficulty. That's fine if that happens when you're doing something close to your office and you can redo it right then. But then you have the law that says the date of the marriage and they need to redo, but you're somewhere out 100 miles from your office in a field somewhere where they cannot possibly redo their document right then.
Right,
so
right.
There are issues.
So it takes an experienced notary public to know about all of these different scenarios that you need to look out for to ensure that that marriage certificate is handled properly and that it gets processed through the probate office correctly without any issues.
Absolutely.
So always pick an experienced professional notary to notarize your marriage certificate. Do you have any advice that you would like to give or offer for any notaries that may be considering becoming a wedding officiant? Other than what the wonderful information you've already given.
Well, be prepared for anything. If you're going to be a wedding officiant, you have to prepare for anything. I mean, you have the pros of it's beautiful settings and beautiful dresses and wonderful people and happy days. But then the cons of the situation is where bridezillas are a thing. You should know that ahead of time. I have gone to weddings where a bride and her 5 bridesmaids locked themselves in the room and the grandparents were sitting in the sun on a hot July day and sat there for an hour waiting for the bride to decide to come out. So we're talking about be prepared and be flexible, because don't feel like it's all going to just be something smooth and it's going to flow through. Just be prepared for anything is what I would say.
That's very good advice. Do you have any tips or information other than what you've already shared with fellow notaries on the proper way to notarize a marriage certificate? Anything in particular that they should be on the lookout for?
Well, notaries in general, wedding officiants and otherwise, September the 1st of 2023, I was looking, it's the Senate Bill number 322, Alabama Act 2023-548. That's the new law passed for notaries. So whether you're a new notary or you're a notary who's renewing, you need to complete the training developed by the Alabama Probate Judges Association and Alabama Law Institute. You have to complete that training within 30 days after your application to renew or to become an officiant. So that is something I would suggest. And when I completed that training, there actually was specific writing about what you are required to do as a officiating a marriage and notarizing a marriage certificate. So I would suggest study those specifics.
Okay. All right. Well, Bonnie, thank you so much for being with us today. You have given some great advice to our notaries. Thank you so much for sharing your story. This will help others to see how other notaries do it and decide if they think it might be something that they are interested in. How can people get in touch with you if they need a notary or a wedding officiant in the Huntsville, Alabama area?
Okay, you can go to my website, or not my website, but my Facebook page, which is a Huntsville Wedding Officiant, and that's a Huntsville Wedding Officiant on Facebook. Or you can call my office at 256-534-8485 and leave your information. I'll contact you back.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Bonnie. We will include this information at the end of the podcast and in the video description. Thank you all so much for being with us today. Please note, as a reminder, we are having a marriage certificate notarization class coming up on Thursday, February the 29th at 6:30 p.m., and it will be via Zoom. Be sure to visit the events page at notaryknowhow.org to register. I will include a link for this also in the video description. Also, be sure and sign up for our email subscription list to always be a notary in the know. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Bonnie, so much for being here.
Thank you.